Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Diet Time is here. That's right, we're still talking 1986's Cobra on Kill by Kill. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet. It's your old pal Patrick Hamilton, coming to you once again from the streets of Long Beach, Los Angeles, Venice. This is the Kill by Kill podcast, where we are dedicated to celebrating the least discussed component of any horror film or cop procedural, the characters. That's right, we're going to unpack all the goriest of details of 1986's Cobra in the hopes that an unfortunate night slasher's victim's death is just the beginning of the jokes that we can make at their expense. And as always, there is only one person that I trust, that if I begin to drown my French fries in ketchup, she will give me a life raft to save them from drowning. The one and the only Gena Radcliffe. How are you doing today, Gena?
Well, I was fine until you stole my intro.
See, we never coordinate these things. I tend to like to surprise you in the hopes that I get a laugh, and when I didn't, I'm like, oh, I may have stepped on someone's toes.
I know I had to make some kind of remark about how I brought a bobblehead doll for you.
Oh, we're gonna get to that bobblehead. Don't you worry about that.
Well, see, that's the thing. I mean, we talked about the first half of the movie, and it's startling to realize, and we haven't even reached the apex of true horror in this movie. We've seen bodies crushed, stabbed, and torn asunder.
Yes.
We've seen people firing on each other with guns and the wholesale destruction of property. Mm-hmm. And yet none of that prepares you for Sylvester Stallone trying to play a romantic hero.
Oh, man. I mean, we can just get right into it because there's not much plot to cover. This is basically the chase portion of the movie. So plot really is catch as catch can. But one of the most horrific elements of this, as you said, is him trying to play cute. When he arrived at a table holding a plastic or ceramic, I'm not sure which. What would it matter? Hamburger, as like, hey, isn't this funny? It's kind of like, I don't think you understand what jokes are, my man.
Well, let us reiterate. He and Brigitte Nielsen were actively falling in love while they were filming this.
Oh, yeah.
And yet they still couldn't generate a drop of chemistry. Not
That's
one.
weird.
I mean, you would think that even just the natural chemistry between two people who are falling in love would come through. No, nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, you thought
it's like they put in, Home Alone when Kevin puts those, mannequins and cardboard cutouts on trains and has them go past windows. Those characters are more alive than Sylvester Stallone and Brigitte Nielsen.
I mean, you thought that Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise had no chemistry in Eyes Wide Shut. I mean, you ain't seen nothing yet.
I mean, I will say, at least for that movie, isn't part of it that your marriage is falling apart right in front of it? Like, they shouldn't be really hot, even though I think that was like the selling point. They put that into the ether like, oh, you're going to see these two very attractive people be hot with one another. And then they forgot to tell everyone the director only directs the coldest and harshest of realities.
Remember when that movie when they were talking about that movie was getting made, it was supposed to be like, supposedly it was supposed to be about a married psychiatrists who have affairs with their patients.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, that sounds cool. And then we watched this and it's like, oh, all right.
That's so much. But again, another surprise Christmas movie. Eyes Wide Shut and Cobra, they have that in common.
A woman tells her husband a mildly naughty sexual fantasy and he loses his fucking mind.
And just ends up at a fucking orgy. I mean, what are the chances that this wild cacophony of events takes place. I don't know. It's
one night in which every single person he encounters wants to fuck him. I mean, who among us just hasn't had one of those nights where every single last person you encounter, no matter how meaningful the connection you have with them, they obviously want to sleep with you.
This become Eyes Wide Shut cast? It's not like we don't want to talk about Cobra. It's just the lack of sexual chemistry between Sylvester Stallone and Brigitte Nielsen has to be noted. Like, they look at one another like, well, you're a person I'm supposed to talk to because script man says so. But he wrote the script and he cast her, and they're supposedly boning at this moment in time, and yet they can't even bother to look like they like one another.
They're sort of like, one of those road movies where the man and the woman clearly don't like each other, and then by the middle of the movie they kind of grudgingly feel a little warmth towards each other. They're in the grudgingly warmth stage where it's like, well, we're stuck together, might as well tolerate each other.
I would hazard a guess that they don't even tolerate one another. It's almost as if they were making a real estate deal with their genitals. It just doesn't feel like there's a lot of passion involved at any point of this. Whereas there is passion for killing in Cobra, and there's definitely passion for getting across some sort of crazy right-wing philosophy of how crime operates. Because at one point they're stuck in a car together and they have the most distaff conversation with one another. And she goes, why is it, and in the softest, most monotone way, why is it that the sickles can't be put away and then they never come out? And then he mumbles like, tell it to the judge. And you're like, why are we having this conversation? Does she really believe that people who have committed a crime should be put away forever? And he's like, laws, they keep getting in the way of me murdering people. Like, this is a very odd philosophical conversation where neither party seems to believe what they're saying, and you can actively see it on screen.
Yeah, it's some sort of weird, half conservative, half cynical viewpoint.
Yes.
In which, yes, the sicko should be put away forever, but the judges aren't interested in doing that.
Yes, but specifically judges. That's what it comes down to. It's like a real judge-based problem. I don't really think that's, certainly we have our fair share of terrible judges, but we always have. So it wasn't a particular problem at the time. It just feels very like leftover from the 70s. It's regurgitated Dirty Harry. And it's the part of this that I don't buy. Where if he was just a bitter cop who would rather shoot first and ask questions later and just leave it at that, I would be fine with that. That's what this is. It's montages of guys slapping axes together while there's an open fire in an empty pool. Like, that's what this movie is. Like, why enter your philosophies into it?
Well, there's very little nuance to it. Yeah, this is a movie that ends with an original song that's called like American Son, where basically Sylvester Stallone is America, and America has had enough of these axe wielding creeps.
But America has always had enough of these axe wielding creeps. And that's the thing. Like,
can you tell me there wasn't a time when we were kind of okay with axe wielding creeps?
I mean, there may have been a moment here or there where it came down to us or axe wielding creeps, and we decided whoever wins, we all lose, or whatever.
Well, here's the thing. He opens up with this, as we talked about in the last episode, he opens up with this, largely made up list of statistics of crime rates. Yeah. Like there's a rape every, 0.5 seconds. Someone is constantly being murdered. Just, if you take a breath, 2 people got murdered right then and there. Just in that time.
Yeah. Look around you to your left or your right. You're probably going to see a murdered person. Exactly.
And if you haven't, then you're the murdered person. Oh, look, there's a knife sticking out of your chest. Is that like the rest of he just kind of jumps right to the most extreme example of this he could find. I mean, at least like I mean, the Dirty Harry movies aren't great, but at least it was, he's fixated on one person. That's the problem. In the original Dirty Harry, he was supposed to be something like the Zodiac killer, and in Sudden Impact, it was someone someone taking revenge for a rape.
A vigilante.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Here, it's an entire fucking cult.
Yeah,
that he single-handedly takes down by himself.
Because no one else believes that it exists. And
even though these people are walking around in broad daylight and making sure that people see what they're doing, they're not trying to not get caught.
That's the thing. Like, I just feel like in terms of trying to get the word out about the new world, you kind of have to pick a philosophy. One is send out your hunters to, I don't know, break into supermarkets, start blasting away people near Christmas trees, shoot peanuts, those sort of things. And get them on the news and announce that the new world is coming. Okay, that's one way to go about it. Or you could do this underground thing where you go around in a very fogged up van and knife murder and sledgehammer people to death.
Yeah, they seem like they have some sort of message and concept they want to get across, but we never know what that is. And I need to see their mission statement.
Yeah, where's the manifesto? Like, break that shit out at some point. And once we do get to a moment where Night Slasher begins his TED Talk, it really, like, all he does is say pig 1,000 times, and we get to see spittle spray.
Oh my God, he's it's just flying everywhere. It's like talking to your grandpa.
You are in the splash zone. If this was a 4D movie at Universal Studios,
between the sweat and the spit, so much moisture.
Just slapping at you.
It's like being at the Evil Dead show.
I saw 2 live shows. I don't know if I mentioned this on the show before. I've seen 2 live interpretations of movies here in town. One being the It musical, where they did It Chapter 1 and 2 as a musical. And I found that very good. And then there was a Point Break, in which they would pick an audience member to play Johnny Utah, which was honestly, it kind of worked, but it also was that part of the world where everyone kind of decided Keanu Reeves isn't a really good actor instead of someone who makes a definitive choice and casts himself well.
Did you get, was there like actual sea spray or anything like that? Because I feel like this is tied into just the sensory experience of having liquid sprayed all over you.
Both shows had splash zones. And so if a Cobra musical does come around the town, I assume that there will be a big third act splashing.
It's like being at a goddamn Gallagher show. I want to talk about this a little more because sure. I want to know what their end game is. Are they going to? It's like vampires. It's like, okay, you've killed everybody and you've turned them all into vampires. Well, what are you going to use for food? So I mean, if you is there idea of they're just going to wholesale kill everybody?
Well, or do they want to survive?
Or do they want to get involved in local politics?
Yes, what we need is a caucus of the Axe Gang.
What is the advantage in the new world of having people running around, axe murdering people?
I don't know. I mean, I guess we don't have to worry about free healthcare as much, or we do? I'm not sure. Again, when it gets to the moment where we're supposed to get the grand philosophy of this, it boils down to, I want to put my axe in you real hard.
Well, it's also, and it's a kind of a ripoff, and of all the movies you're going to rip off is 10 to Midnight when the we'll get to this one eventually. Is that in both cases they give this whole "you can't do anything to me"? They'll say I'm sick, and it's just like, okay. Who's they? And right. You don't understand how the law works. You seem very certain of this, and I don't think you actually picked up a law book. But yeah, his manifesto is, I can do whatever I want because society says I'm sick. It's like, all right, you started a whole cult based on that?
I know. Like, why don't you start baking your own bread? Like, what is why is murder the first thing that came to your mind when you're sick?
And how do you pull other people? Of course, it's the question that one could ask of most real life cult members is, how did you get people to buy this? How did you get people to say, yeah, that I like the cut of your jib. I would like to subscribe to your newsletter.
I know. Like, do people just wander into this abandoned pool and like, hey, what you doing? Oh, you slapping a couple axes together?
Like what do they like? How do they recruit Art the accountant to join their axe gang?
I was going to ask you a very specific question about this because we brought up the guy in the suit unless there's a couple guys in suits, but there's also one person who's holding up an ice axe. Like everyone else has straight up axes, either single or double bladed, but there's one guy with an ice axe, and everyone is snickering at that dude behind his back. Like, we're an axe gang, not like any axe you have available to you, gang. Like, come on, what are you doing with an ice axe?
Also, where are you getting an ice axe in Los Angeles?
The fuck if I know. Also, they never really call it Los Angeles. It's the Metropolitan Police. So this takes place in Metropolis. Apparently.
Oh, okay. It just happens to prominently feature a highway near your house, I think you said.
Oh yeah, that entire chase that we ended on in last week is all downtown Long Beach. I mean, you can't recognize half of it, but it is very much downtown Long Beach.
In Metropolis.
If someone was saying, well, what are you guys talking about? Catch me up because I didn't happen to catch last week. And for that, I say, do yourself a favor. That's a great episode. But typically we ask on a second half or third half, when we pick these things up, who's still left alive at this point in the movie? Most of Los Angeles / Metropolis, but not for a lack of trying, because over the course of 50 minutes, the New World has killed about 25 people, at least those that we can count, and have simultaneously covered up their identities and sent one dude to a supermarket to talk to reporters in between murderers. And then Brigitte Nielsen saw this guy in the middle of the fucking road after strapping his face into pantyhose every single time he goes out to kill.
Because that also does an astonishing job of disguising his features.
Again, it's like a giant jaw inside of pantyhose would be my description of him.
Oh.
And then they decide to risk everything by killing one witness. Going around and not disguising themselves to kill one witness.
They sent out like dozens of. They seem to have like several hundred members of their gang. Yes. And I mean, even at the most, Charles Manson had like 30. At best. and it's just like he's got biker gangs. He's got people on the inside working at the police station. Just hundreds of people just doing this one dude's bidding.
And it just doesn't make a ton of sense.
To kill one person.
I don't get why she's so important. And if she is so important and you have someone on the inside, just have Nancy Stalk walk up behind her and slash her throat and be done with it. But no, they wander out and they're like, hey, we got to do the most public execution of this person possible. Otherwise, everyone will know we exist. What are you talking about? This is so stupid. Like, this organization, I hate to say this. Gena. I don't think the Axe Gang is managed very well. I think they have a leadership problem.
That's a bold statement.
I'm saying I don't think the Axe Gang is, I don't know that they're capable of making the New World happen. I think it's farcical that they believe that they can make all these things happen because they can't kill Brigitte Nielsen, and she stands out in a crowd, as does every person in this movie.
Well, the problem is not that they can't kill her. It's that they are so insistent on killing other people along the way.
They can't help themselves.
Like this is going back to the last episode, but in the hospital scene, he goes in there to kill her, then just for shits and giggles, kills 3 other people. It's like, number one, you're inefficiently using time.
Right.
Because
he could have come in there in costume or stole the costume and just ran off and did this thing. But he just
anybody that I've read my criminology books. I've watched plenty of true TV, and I can tell you that if you are so you unable to control your faculties that you cannot stop yourself from just randomly killing 3 people in a hospital, you're not going to get very far in your world takeover cult.
And that one nurse was so close to being a get bunked. It was so very close. There's even a Friday the 13th reference with a bloody mop in the bed, like the bloody axe. But no, she just it goes slow motion. Wah, 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 wah. And and I don't even know what happens to her. She could go into a phantasm pit for all we know. This movie made me so angry because at one point, the upper management of Metropolitan Police start making sense. And I'm like, yeah, you're right, upper management of the police department. I'm like, fuck, I don't want to be that guy. But this movie made me do it.
Well, it's very much a very Republican movie in that, if people are doing bad things, it is okay for you to do the same bad thing because you're working on the side of good.
Right.
So, they kill a bunch of people. You kill a bunch of people.
Yeah, and it's equal. It's fine.
And somehow in all of this, massive car chases and public gunfire, no good people get killed. Only bad people.
Also, Cobra makes such a bad job of making an argument for why he thinks it's multiple people when the truth is hey, dummies, all those people died in that parking garage that Brigitte Nielsen was in. That wasn't the work of one person. She saw multiple people and can identify at least one. That doesn't mean the night slasher is just one dude. And they're like, get out of here. And then all of a sudden, crank up the feel the heat, the dulcet tones of one, checking my notes, Jean Beauvoir.
Yes, punk icon Jean Beauvoir. Not one of his finer moments.
Where does Jean Beauvoir actually comes from somewhere? This I don't know.
He does. He was a member of the Plasmatics, which you might know from Reform School Girls.
Sure. Yeah. No. Listen. I watched Night Flight. I'm familiar with the Plasmatics. I'm certainly familiar with the outfit that she would wear. Yeah.
He's more known for being a producer than a musician. And this is not one of his finer moments.
No, I wanted to, I know I don't usually do this, Gena, but I want you to sit back and relax and allow me to treat you to a little bit of the amazing poetry that can be found. And you look at the lyrics of Feel the Heat. Now, I wish I could put a bed of music in here that would, be smooth jazzy, but just, let it happen in your mind. Listen, confusion has a lonely game. I don't know, like fucking Tetris. Nothing answered. Things left the same. You still don't understand myself. How can I explain to someone else? He rhymed myself with else. And that's genius. You know what? I'm a writer, but I can't write like that. So I got to give it up to one Jean Beauvoir. That's Feel the Heat, everybody.
Feel the Heat is mid-level 80s music, just perfectly encapsulated. Very synth heavy, a focus on the word heat. Oh, I have a bit of trivia for you.
Sure.
Did you know that, speaking of the word heat, that the song that Mark Wahlberg sings in Boogie Nights, Feel the Heat,
Yes.
was originally going to be using Cobra.
No.
Yep.
Gena, take that back. Take it back.
No, that's true.
Brain matter is leaking out of my nose. So if I start to put in pictures instead of word symbols, you'll know why.
The weatherman is dead.
We get to see some real odd shit because this, as we said, this sort of becomes a road movie in the second half, and it's full of supposed meet cutes that neither meet nor are cute. At one point, they stop for gas and for Gonzalez to grab a bunch of junk food because this movie is obsessed with food.
Oh my God, yes. It's so weird.
And the closest this movie gets to the Bechdel test is a conversation between Gonzalez and Brigitte Nielsen. And he says this, and this is the direct quote. I know he looks like a fugitive from the 50s, but he's great at catching psychos. I have a couple problems with this. Number one, citation needed, motherfucker. Two, he absolutely does not look like anyone who either likes anything about the 50s beyond the car he just wrecked.
Yeah, that was weird, wasn't it?
Like, he's not a fugitive from the 50s. He has a 50s car with a vanity plate on it. That's about it.
That says awesome, which nobody used that word in the 50s.
Right. So where did this come in the script, and why did they keep it in? Or because Sylvester Stallone is really grooming this entire thing to make himself look cool. So why keep this in when there's no reflection of it beyond the car in the movie?
Actually, you know what? I am mistaken. It's even more amazing than you think.
Yes.
It's not Feel the Heat. It's the song The Touch.
Oh my God. I'm sorry.
I will when the episode goes up, I will link the article that says they had written the song to be used on the soundtrack to Cobra, and ended up being used in the Transformers movie instead.
You got the touch.
You got the power.
Oh God. Well, I'm glad they didn't, because Cobra neither displays touch nor power. And of course, just to round this out concerning Gonzalez's predilection for stating that Cobra is some sort of outlier from the 1950s, sit on it, Potsy. So,
yeah, I think now that memory serves, I think I took a little pause with that.
Yeah, it really stuck out this time around. Also, what sticks out is that during this, Cobra, Sylvester Stallone is doing business over at this random tchotchke stand, and I've picked out couches faster than he looks at bobbleheads. He picks up this bobblehead and takes a look at it like he can't believe it exists in reality. Like he's taken one too many fake punches to the head. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's just utterly fascinated by this thing, and he even does his own little head bobble thing, which, it's comedy.
Yeah, it's hard to call.
We saw someone get a van run into them like 20 minutes earlier. Sly.
Yeah, but all of a sudden, it's this cute story of these two kids who can't just help falling in love with one another, and we get attempts. Well, let's put attempts of humor in dick fingers, because there's one joke where she's told his name is Marion. And so she comes over and she says, "Oh, your name's Marion Cabretti." And he goes, "Oh, it was really tough growing up with a name like that. I always figured I'd want to have a tougher name." And she asks him, "What name would that have been?" And almost as if he was compelled by the court to say it, he then says, "Alice." And if you're thinking I'm underplaying it, watch Cobra, because it is underplayed to the point where you thought maybe he won't, like they paid him an extra $1 million to say it. He looks like he's doing a screen opening for a Universal Studios tram ride attraction. There's just no emotion behind it whatsoever.
He looks embarrassed to try to be funny. And I get it, because we've all seen Rhinestone. He's
he's fresh off of Drunkenstein.
He's not a natural comedian, and I think that he is vaguely aware of that, but hadn't quite accepted it by the time he got to Cobra and thought he would try a little bit. But it's like as soon as he read the line, he just like you could hear him thinking, "I'm gonna sound so stupid saying this," and you know what? He does. So good on him for that insight.
It almost feels like he'd said it like 3 times before, and this was the 4th take, and he's just like, I'm not even gonna like bring anything to it. I'm just gonna say the word Alice like I'm saying soup and hope that they cut it. And they're like, that one's perfect. Make sure to notate it. Let's put that one in the edit.
Cut and print.
Yeah, no more needed. I got exactly what I wanted. Where is this abandoned pool that the Axe Gang meets at? How did they find one another? We've said this a couple times in various places, but it almost feels like they had a flyer up at the supermarket where, are you sick of how society treats you? Take one and meet us at the abandoned pool.
Add the petty saber.
At least bring one axe because we only have so many extras. So you're going to need 2 to bang them together.
Your own, yeah, exactly. BYOA. Free childcare available.
Yeah. Certainly not every guy, there's got to be some divorced dads in that group, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the only woman in the group is Officer Stalk. I mean, she's a belle of the ball.
I felt very poor because in the last episode, I stated that her line rating of, have you been drinking was, yes, I have. But in fact, it's just, I have. Oh my God. I think it's my favorite part of the movie.
I'm going to mention again, I just like that when she goes into cult mode, she puts on heavy blue eyeshadow. She's definitely got the like MTV Video Vixen, makeup going on.
Yes.
Whereas everybody else just looks like in the cult just looks like they crawled out of a jar of Vaseline. Just filthy and greasy and sweaty.
Everyone else looks like they're in a high school wrestling team trying to cut weight. They're just constantly sweating, trying to get down to that 150-pound class or something like that. And meanwhile, she's like, well, I don't sweat so much, but I do over-exaggerate my makeup. Perfect. And she gets the job. They go to a restaurant. Once again, we have flirtatious scene after flirtatious scene with neither really having flirtation. But Sylvester Stallone tries to make himself look cute with a ceramic hot hamburger. I almost said hot dog. But really, prop work, Sly, prop work. We got a real Gallagher 3 sitch happening here. Brigitte, as her character, Ingrid asks, do you date? With women, she says, do you ever get involved? And Cobra answers, with a real woman? Now, that's a real red flag, Gena. You mentioned, oddly enough, Charles Bronson in 10 to Midnight, but not since he, in that movie, picked up a pocket pussy, have I been more uncomfortable with on-screen sexuality.
Said we'll get to that one eventually.
No, we're gonna hit that one. We're gonna hit that one real hard. Too hard, possibly. But Sylvester Stallone comes like he's not someone who oozes, oh, I want to have sex with that guy. It's not that he can't be visually impressive, or that I'm sure there are plenty of men and women who find him attractive. But he doesn't come across as someone who wants to have sex.
No, he really doesn't, does he? And I think you could say the same for Arnold Schwarzenegger too. It's just I mean, Conan the Barbarian aside, But yeah, I think you're right that they don't seem either particularly sexy or sexual.
Yes.
And that's because I honestly think that they were trying to and I don't mean necessarily in a gay way, but I think they were trying to appeal more to male audiences.
Okay.
And what our male audience is uninterested in, romance. So they don't want a particularly romantically inclined hero.
But they have to put these scenes in here, otherwise the movie would have been 75 minutes long.
Well, yeah, and it's entirely possible that I would not at all be surprised because being that Sylvester Stallone, he wrote the script, right?
Oh yes,
yeah. It would not surprise me if he punched up some of these scenes too, so they had more screen time together, because clearly they thought that they had chemistry that did not express itself on the screen at all.
To me, their whole deal feels like a business merger. It feels like it
feels like when I forget which one it was, when John Mulaney talks about when he has to get a prostate examination. Mm-hmm. And he says, well, this might as well happen. That's what it feels like. And that's how you can tell a poorly written and kind of just haphazardly shoved into a script romance is when the vibe between the two people is, well, you're here, I'm here, this might as well happen.
Yeah, like I have a part that I think goes into your part. So should those parts be put together? Like he has a sexuality in here that says, if he was like, oh, I wish I could get involved with you. The thing is, I'm currently dating Svedka, the sexy robot who sells vodka. I'd be like, that makes sense.
Well, I think the whole idea is, and again, I may be giving Stallone a little too much credit for nuance here.
Yeah,
is that he's married to his job. And he keeps really weird hours and sees a lot of unpleasant things, and of course he would never talk about these things because he's a man, and men don't talk about that kind of thing. But you can see it in in his face and how he carries himself, how hard the job is, and here's the chance of something nice with this woman he's protecting from axe murderers.
And even if he did talk about it, would you be able to understand it because that fucking matchstick in his mouth? Probably not.
No, and because the movie is so intent on creating a very certain masculine ideal of the whole man of few words thing, he wouldn't talk about it. No. And that was a unfortunate fallout of 70s and 80s movies, is these silent heroes. I could spend a whole hour ranting about that and how that fucked up a generation. With how no matter how awful your job is, you don't talk about it.
Here's something most people don't talk about either, and that is that Brigitte Nielsen's wig here reminded me of Little Orphan Annie.
I don't know what was wrong or considered not appropriate for her actual hair when she did this. Yeah. I mean, she's supposed to be
probably an icy blonde.
She's supposed to be a model. So, I mean, models have interesting hair.
I'm sorry. Brigitte Nielsen, very aesthetically attractive woman. Like, you don't need to put curly hair on her to make it. Do I want her to be approachable? Like, is that something I'm looking for in a model being stalked by an axe cult? Probably not. So why the fuck do you have to she's too unbelievable to be into Sylvester Stallone? But they're actually boning at this point. Like, the sexual chemistry should be popping off the fucking screen. So why put her in this terrible wig and a pork pie newsboy hat on top of it? Holy fuck. I mean, what the? Is she hunting ghosts with her friend who's a gorilla? What is this outfit that she's in? She's supposed to be a model, for Christ's sakes. I'm not saying that she has to be in a miniskirt the whole goddamn time, but she honestly is in drag as Shelly from Friday the 13th Part 3. It's real fucking weird.
I hadn't thought of that, but you're absolutely right.
I hadn't thought about that until this very second, but I made the connection in my mind. I mean, it's just really odd, her sense of vests. I mean, what can you do about how high-waisted everyone's jeans are? That was just the time, but oh my God, no one looks cool. No one looks, he doesn't look like he's from the 50s. The poor guy from the actual Dirty Harry movie is stuck in a members only jacket, chewing constantly on the shittiest food just so Sylvester Stallone can come down on him. I mean, it's just like, oh boy, can't people have personalities? Like, I guess not. I guess not. And meanwhile, Nancy Stalk, super spy, makes 2 very unstealthy phone calls. What is the point of her in this? Because ideally, if you're going to send a policewoman out on this sort of detail, it's because you don't want the witness to be forced to sleep in the same room as, say, Sylvester Stallone, who can't take his fucking leather gloves off. You put her in the room together so they're like, oh, I don't have to worry about someone like attacking me in the middle of the night or waking me up assembling a fucking machine gun.
Yeah, she really doesn't. I mean, they don't seem to have much trouble keeping up with her, with where Ingrid is either way. They don't really seem to need her.
No.
Except that, it's the thing that I find amusing is that Officer Stalk, I will never recover from that, is actually working for the cult. It's set up like it was meant to be a surprise reveal at some point, but you find out almost immediately.
No, there's like zero surprise to it.
And it's like, okay, is the suspense in when everybody else is going to find out? Because it's not even all that dramatic. I mean, they spot her like frantically waving at a pickup truck, and then that's it. Because nobody knows how to be subtle in this. Nobody knows how to do anything, covertly or secretly or here's a fucking idea quietly. How about
have this conversation around the goddamn corner where you're not in view of the person you're supposed to be sneak attacking?
How about you come after these people quietly? I mean, like the part, and again, this is back in the first half, the part where the gang shows, some of the gang members show up at Cobretti's house. Like Cobretti opens the door and was like, yeah! It's like he lives in an apartment complex, right? People are going to hear you.
Yeah, at least try to, like, even Landshark was low pro than this.
Just
like,
just
try to keep it together.
Try sneaking into things every now and then.
Every once in a while, and one person does. One person is already in his apartment, but the 2 doofuses at the front door ruin the surprise. So it is an actual surprise when the guy who's already in the apartment comes, busting out of the slider.
They're chopping down doors, they're screaming, they're shooting, and it's every time they show up, it's announced. We mentioned before that they all show up in motorcycles, so you could hear them from 5 miles away, and it's just they're very, very bad at this.
They are terrible. I do have a couple of things that I just want to get out of the way before we get to this final, when they all show up all at once. And one is in the bedroom. Ingrid says to Cobra, where will you go when all this is done? Into a shoebox with the other police elves? Where the fuck do you think police detectives go when they finish one case? They go on to the next fucking case. It's not that hard to understand. What do you mean, where will you go? Like Fiji? On vacation? I don't know. I have a winery down in Mexico and I'm going to check on it this year. Like, what the fuck are you asking? Secondly, speaking of bad musical choices, Bill Medley from the
Righteous Brothers.
The Righteous Brothers. This is the same year, 1986, which he's featured, in I've Had the Time of My Life. So, this was a big year for him. He is featured on the soundtrack twice. One is in that tavern scene, which he is singing with Gladys Knight, and the second one is during this seduction scene in the motel, and he's singing with Carmen Twilly, who's most famous for singing The Circle of Life from 1994's Lion King. But Bill, in this particular second song, whenever he's singing, sounds like he's cross-examining an uncooperative witness in court. Hey, talk to me now. Like, what?
You can just picture him waving his finger.
Yeah. No one was giving him direction for the booth. They're like, Bill, why don't you just knock this out? I'm going to be at lunch and I'll see you on the flippity flop. And Bill's like, okay. Hey, I'm going to be unnecessarily aggressive. And it's like, that's not it, man. And then everyone got the tapes like, well, it's for Cobra. Should we give a fuck? Nope. Okay, moving on. Also, before the Axe Gang shows up on very loud motorcycles, Cobra is awoken by the sound of a hawk. Just out of nowhere, happens, and he opens his eyes. And I love that. I love that he's awoken by a hawk. And so, yeah, like we were talking about earlier, the Axe Gang arrives. Nancy Stalk's out there at a pickup truck, just pointing and yelling, there, shoot there. Like, great element of surprise, guys. This is fantastic. Maybe you're better at banging axes together in an abandoned swimming pool than invading this motel. I think they picked the wrong weapons. They're axe people. And they show up here with motorcycles and machine guns. And it turns out they're shitty at it.
They really are.
They're terrible at it.
Terrible Axe Gang.
They start shooting at this motel room. And Sylvester Stallone knocks out one window and kills 5 dudes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with 5 shots. And they're like, I don't know. Do we do the exact same thing? Okay, we're going to do the same thing. All right, let's do it. And the only measure of success they get is they just keep throwing it to the point where he can't shoot them fast enough. But it's not a good way to do this. They're just an overwhelming force. Again, I don't think the Axe Gang is managed very well, Gena.
No, they really aren't.
Not a great method of attack. And then occasionally, whenever they're knocked off a motorcycle, because they've slicked down every road surface, they always slide. And I just found myself involuntarily going, wee. It knocks some of the visceral thrill out of it when your death looks fun.
Yeah, it looks like they're all on slip and slides.
You know, and I guess it made the sliding easier to do, but it also Cobra and Ingrid really abandoned Gonzalez fast. Like they blow up Gonzalez's room and he jumps out a window nearly on fire. He gets shot in the leg and Cobra yells, Gonzalez! And when he doesn't hear anything, it's like,
well, he's
fuck
dead.
All y'all.
He had a good run.
Yeah, you know what? He can handle the rest of this on his own. We're going to take off. So
you got this, Gonzalez, right? Yeah, you got it. Hurry in the car. Bye.
So Ingrid takes the wheel and Cobra jumps in the back of this truck and they just start mowing down motherfuckers. Listen, this is fun. I like this movie a lot. Okay. Everything we're talking about are just the logical conclusions of watching Cobra. Part of the fun is wondering how any of it happened. Okay. That doesn't make it any less fun to watch. It is very fun to watch, particularly the sequence. But I will say this. None of the Axe Gang have ever watched a fucking Mad Max movie. Okay. I think if you're running an Axe Gang, you go, guys, listen, we don't have to watch the third one, but I think we should watch the first 2 Mad Max movies. Okay. Everyone, I'm going to rent the VHS and we're going to watch it before we attack the motel.
Yeah, you got to have your required gang viewing. You know, yes. you watch Helter Skelter, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Sure,
you watch some Mad Max movies.
Yes. You watch The Shining just because it's axe related? I mean, I guess.
Sure, why not?
Except 2.5 hours. Sure, why not? Maybe a cartoon of Paul Bunyan. I'm not sure.
They got to have those team building exercises where everybody brings a snack.
Like a potluck?
Yeah. Everybody sits around and watches movies in their filthy dungeon. Yeah, they love Art the accountant's wife's 7-layer dip.
Oh yeah, she makes a great 7-layer dip. I mean, I think she would balk if she knew her husband were taking it to the axe cult, but also she gets such amazing benefits from the axe cult because despite how he might look in that 3-piece suit, he is very fit because his cardio from lifting those axes and smashing them together is really, he's brought him in line. Like he's down to the same weight he was in college. He's very excited and happy to get up in the morning. These are the benefits of being in the axe cult.
Well, it's got to be something. Otherwise, how are they going to have so many people in it?
I keep trying to wonder, like, what is their pull? Where their raison d'etre? And outside of being sweaty and spittle infused, I don't know. It's got to be just the fringe benefits or just the camaraderie. That's what it comes down to.
Absolutely.
Maybe Nancy Stalk, comes on to you by kissing your bicep one night.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky and sweaty and have just dyed your hair with ink. So this whole, what can we say about this machine gun battle? He just starts mowing down motherfuckers. Finally, out of nowhere, there's a 4 cars on fire blocking the road. So where did these come from? Where are the guys who set up the roadblock of flaming cars? Where are they at? Was that always their plan? That they were going to flush them towards still burning cars?
Yeah, that requires more forethought than I think that these cult members actually have.
Yeah, they're like, hey, Jerry's going to set up the flaming cars. Not Jerry! We can't trust him to do that. No, he says he can do it. He knows where 4 cars are, and he has a can of gasoline. He's going to light them on fire. We just got to give him the signal. That will be when he hears a billion motorcycles revving towards him in machine gun fire, and they'll know it's him. But that involves a plan where they knew that Cobra was going to be driving in that direction, which they did not know. I think they probably just wanted to kill him at the motel, but they needed a way for this to end, and that's the way they figured out they would. So they get dumped off of this truck. It's destroyed. Sylvester Stallone gets tossed off of this wreck, and he does a tuck and roll, and then stands up, machine gun ready. I'm ready to go. You just landed there. You were going 55 miles per hour. You don't just pick up and hey, time to go. But he does. I guess because he's small, maybe he makes less of an impact. I don't know. Maybe that's the advantage of those very tight jeans.
Yeah, you don't have a lot of material flapping around. You can move faster.
But this whole sequence sets off something that I'm not so much a fan of in this movie, which is Cobra's use of hand grenades. Now, I don't want to get nerdy, but the whole point of a hand grenade is to take care of a small group of people that you might not be able to shoot or kill individually. You scatter them, or you wreck everything that they're on, or you disable them with a grenade, but you don't use it for a person. Well, Cobra doesn't play that way, baby. He uses grenades with one exception on single people. And I just that's really not what grenades are for, everyone. It's like Sylvester Stallone had never played Doom.
I just where does he get grenades from?
Oh, he just has them around the house. Maybe they were provided by the Pepsi Corporation. Everything else was.
It's just stamp the grenade of a new generation.
That's right. I'm surprised it isn't blue and red with a white stripe down the middle of it. Listen, if it can stop the Antifa movement, it definitely can stop an axe gang. One delightful moment is Cobra and Ingrid are running across. There's an overhead shot of them running through this orange grove. And they're very obviously they're stunt doubles. Obviously they're stunt doubles. So for Sylvester Stallone can do this tuck and roll off of a moving truck, but running through an orange grove, he's like, I'll let the stunt man do that one.
It's nice that he can pick and choose like that.
Yeah, well, he's practically in charge at this point. But this is where he tells Ingrid to run. And luckily enough, in the middle of this orange grove is the Spark Factory, a factory that appears to create fire for reasons. And all it takes is one bullet passing through a guard and the entire factory just turns on. Apparently, it's a one switch factory.
It's like a video game where you just have to find out that one little button that gets everything moving.
Yes, and it sure does. This factory has everything: deadly hooks, hallways with just random flames.
It's one of those very typical Spark factories.
Yes. Like, people are walking around, there's giant spark showers, and it just feels like an OSHA hazard everywhere you look. Like, fucking Freddy Krueger looked around and was like, why didn't I work here? This seems like my kind of joint. Yeah, at one point, Sylvester Stallone puts a grenade on a shelf and then goes to another location, and two guys wander into this sort of alcove, and he shoots the grenade to blow it up.
I don't think that's how grenades work.
That isn't how grenades work. And two, why not just fucking shoot them? You have a laser sight. If you just want to go pop, pop, you could. So why are you fucking wasting a grenade on this shit? One of the assassins from the Axe gang has a lot of zippers on his pants. Like a lot of zippers. It's a heavily zippered pant, especially around the ankle region.
I like to think that he has like little tiny axes inside each of those zippered pockets.
There's a reused shot of the night slasher sweating and looking around for Cobra that they used from earlier in the movie, or they used this one in an earlier shot in the movie. I'm not sure which it is, but at one point he goes, do you want to go to hell, to Cobra? And is he asking Cobra to hell prom?
Well, no, because he doesn't have a little cardboard sign, and he's not filming it for his TikTok.
Oh, that's true. That makes sense. You're right, Gena. Once again, you are right. At this point, this is when we get the Night Slasher's TED Talk, where he's like, I want to see your eyes, pig. I want.
Well, what is the Roger Ebert term, the fallacy of the talking killer or something like that?
Yeah.
Where rather than just let us be clear. Up to this point, this character had maybe 15 words of dialogue, and he mostly just glowers. And then all of a sudden, he's given a fucking monologue at the end of this movie, about how, like we said before, that they'll just, they can't put him away. They can't do because he's sick and he's in a sick world. Pig. Just bits of food and spit flying everywhere, and yeah, and this is the time he picks to finally speak. But he has nothing to say. He just says the same thing over and over again. And so Cobra puts his laser sight over his heart and says, it's just time to murderize you. And the guy's like, oh, you can't murder me. You have rules, policeman. Which is, let me point out that he has seen this cop throw grenades at people. Yes. And now all of a sudden he's trying to claim dude, he just killed like half of your crew. And now he just lit a motherfucker on fire like no more than 10 seconds ago. And now you're saying you can't kill me? Why wouldn't he? What's stopping him this time? It just makes you sound stupid because you're not very observant. It just sounds like you're out of step instead of dealing with what's right in front of you. So they have a very uninteresting fight. If there is one thing this movie does not do well, it is fisticuffs. Because I would argue that there's more arm wrestling in the last 10 minutes of this movie than there is in the first 45 minutes of Over the Top. Well, you also have to accept that 5'8" Sylvester Stallone would be an even match against 6'4", 5" Brian Thompson. It is even more absurd than when he goes up against Ivan Drago. Well, they try to film this from
what appears to be the Hubble Space Telescope in the hopes of making this match
so,
look
so it doesn't. It's less apparent that the villain is a good 7 inches taller than the hero.
And for some reason, the Night Slasher is only using one arm to try to stab him, whereas Sylvester Stallone is using both arms to stop him. And it just becomes this very long form overhead arm wrestling match of, am I going to stab you? I'm not going to stab you. Am I going to stab you? No. Whoa. I might be stabbing you. Do you feel it like poking at you? Nope, not yet. I'm going to push back. And you're like, God damn it. Someone throw a goddamn punch. So finally, Sylvester Stallone starts kidney punching him instead of knocking him in the giant fucking jaw, which has the biggest fucking target on it. But finally, the punches start landing after 5 minutes of this, let's roll on top of one another fight.
And yet somehow this is sexier than any of his interactions with Brigitte Nielsen.
Well, it's got more sexual chemistry.
There's more raw, passionate animal energy between the two of them than between
the sparks
Brigitte
don't
Nielsen.
hurt. I mean, I'll be honest with you. The sparks and the heat and the sweat. And, there's a lot more bodily fluids happening here. So finally, this fucking hook that keeps passing. What is this hook attached to? It just keeps going by left, right.
Yeah, it's going in. It's going into the lavanator. I mean, I remember the days when my pops, he would come home from a hard day at the lava making factory.
Yeah, the Hell's Gate-O-Matic 3000. So he finally picks up Night Slasher. Deposits him on this giant hook while Brigitte Nielsen is just off in the shadows contemplating all of this. I mean, I'm not asking her to get involved, but
she could also try escaping maybe while this is happening.
No, she's riveted to what she sees. And who wouldn't be? And then finally he's carried off, still wriggling like a worm on a hook off to the Flametronic 9000, and he is burned alive. And that's it. That's the pretty much the end of our story. I mean, we do go back and we have like Gonzalez, it turns out, is still alive, and he's like, bring me gummy bears.
Which I get that seemed like the truest moment in the whole movie for me, because I enjoy gummy bears. and if I got shot in the leg and I knew I had a long recovery ahead of me at the hospital, I'd say, bring me gummy bears.
I will do that. I don't want you to be shot in the leg.
I'd rather not be. I mean, I could just get gummy bears, but should I somehow get shot in the leg by a marauding axe gang, I'm going to count on you to bring me gummy bears. Bring me the good ones.
There's one more moment in this. I mean, he punches Detective Monty, like whatever. We talked about in the last episode. It was actually supposed to be revealed that Monty was the head of the actual
I wish they got to the point where they had filmed it and then decided not to use it. I'm so what an amazing opportunity now lost.
In a movie that doesn't make any sense. It would have made more sense if someone was actually in fucking charge of it and everything, but then he just like punches him like, but Art LaFleur comes over from a helicopter and says, all right, Cobra, if you need anything, just let me know. And Cobra says, I'd like my car fixed. He goes, nah, not in the budget. All right, see ya.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, this is like immediately following when he's put the bad guy in the lavanator, and he doesn't have any paperwork to fill out. He doesn't have any interviews he has to give, or whether to the media or to the police or anything. It's all over. The axe cult has been vanquished. You can go now, Cobretti. You're good.
Yeah, and I'm sure they got all of them. Like, there's no way he missed any of the axe cult. He just got every single last one of them. No one went to the wind or anything like that.
Do you think he bothered mentioning to anybody that they had someone working in the police force?
I mean, I'm sure that's apparent once they saw the body of Nancy Stock shot in the Spark Factory. Yeah, I don't know. Again, it would have made a lot of sense that if Monty was the head of the new world and he was revealed like, hey, dum-dums. This guy was involved in all of this, and he was the inside man telling you not to put me on the case, and everything that I told you was wrong. No, we just get Sylvester Stallone climbing onto a motorcycle and him looking like an 8-year-old getting on his dad's bike. And then Brigitte Nielsen barely lifting her leg to get on the back of it. There's nothing shows the size difference between the two of them, quite like both of them mounting the same sized motorcycle. It's like she has to crunch up her entire frame to get on the back of this. And he's like, I can barely hold it up. I can barely hold it up.
His little Yosemite Sam feet.
Oh, very much. Complete with heels. Yeah. It makes perfect sense. So that's Cobra, y'all. So let's choose our own death venture, Gena. If you had to choose from any of the deaths seen in this section of the movie, which one would you choose and why? Would you rather be shot, blown up, stabbed, axed, shorn apart by machine gun fire? You can get a shotgun to the ribs, or you can be placed on a hook and sent off to the lavinator. Which one would you choose?
Oh gosh. I mean, getting blown up by a grenade's always pretty good.
It would be fast, that's for sure. I'm telling you right now, I would want to go out on one of those motorcycles and slide.
Whee!
It seems fun. Whee! There's one guy who kind of does a wheelie and then gets pulled back by a very obvious wire. I'd love one of those. That seems like a hootenanny. I definitely don't want to be the guy who gets shot through the sunlight and just falls in there like a goof. Or the guy who just crashes his motorcycle through the door. That seems lame.
Yeah, I don't want to have to give some dumb monologue before I die. So I don't want to be I don't want to be hooked and burninated.
I think maybe 10 to Midnight might have some more fanciful deaths for us to talk about, or The First Power. I'm not sure. But we've certainly found a new subgenre for ourselves. That's the good news.
And apparently people are very excited about us to be talking about this kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely more than Fear No Evil. Based on the downloads, people have neither heard of that movie, or if they have, they don't particularly want to hear us talk about it based on the download numbers. So there's that. Those are fun episodes, everyone. Give them a try.
You should listen to them. They're very entertaining because this movie is wacky.
It is just as wacky, just with it doesn't, for all the lack of an axe gang, it more than makes up for men spontaneously growing breasts.
I mean, true. It does not have John Cafferty and the Beaver Brown Band on the soundtrack, but it does have Patti Smith and the Talking Heads. So
yes, much better soundtrack in Fear No Evil than Cobra. That is for damn sure. So very quickly, where can people find you on the internet, Gena? I
am a writer for The Spool at thespool.net. Currently, I am recapping the HBO series The Outsider. I also have my own website at GenaRadcliffe.com, and you can find me on Twitter under Porcelain72.
Do it today, people. Check it out, of course. On Patreon, we're going to have a special episode coming up. We're going to be talking about 1982's The Seduction, starring the effervescent Morgan Fairchild and all of her body.
And the very sweatervescent Andrew Stevens.
Yes, who also is very sweaty. It's a lot of sweat back to back on Kill by Kill.
But real quick for Patreon, we have a new patron.
Wonderful.
We do. Welcoming Dave Gabbard.
Excellent. Thank you, Dave. Thank you so much for supporting us. As always, podcasting is not for free, but we can bring you the show for free because many people have chosen to help us pay for it and bring you these episodes. And we'd love you to be a part of it. There's multiple levels you can even help us. And currently, we are doing some fundraising for Planned Parenthood for Women in Horror Month. If you donate to Women in Horror Month, and use the donate button on either Facebook or on Twitter and tag Kill by Kill with the receipt, close out anything that might identify you or protect your identity and everything. But that will enter you into the ability to choose a movie for us. And it can be almost anything. The same rules apply to our Patreon level, but this will be on the main feed. So sounds pretty cool. I'd love you to participate. And of course, Planned Parenthood does so much good in this world that really should be provided to us anyways. But because it isn't, they have stepped up. And so we are stepping up for them. That's very important. Reach out to us on Twitter, on Facebook, and on Instagram. And of course, rate and review us on iTunes, because that will help us be seen and heard by more people. We've had a great month on iTunes in terms of our placement there. So we would love that to continue and love to be seen and heard by more people like yourselves, the discerning kill by kill listener. And so until next time, for myself and for Gena, bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.